Good morning. Welcome to the Windsor Star News Cafe. I'm Don McArthur. I'm here with Dylan, Kristy, and our special guest, Chris Holt, who's running in Ward 4.
Welcome. Oh, thank you so much. No, it's great to be here. A little early. You guys are mean, dragging me out of bed this early, but thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, we're glad to have you. Well, let's kick it off right away. You had a press conference yesterday about that space between the sidewalk and the road. What's the official name for that?
Well, that's the boulevard, and it's within the public right-of-way.
Okay.
A lot of residents don't know it. The city doesn't just own the street, but it owns, into what we perceive as our public-private property, into the sidewalk, and then sometimes even beyond the sidewalk, closer to your house. So
interesting.
Yeah.
So a lot of residents have taken it upon themselves to beautify this space. There's landscaping. There's even, as you can see in the picture behind us, they have planter boxes that they've kind of filled it up. So the city's issued work orders to remove this plant grass. Is that what's happening?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It came to light on August 19th, I believe. Councillor Halberstadt asked a council question for administration to report back because one of the residents on Lincoln Road got an order to comply, and it's a very nefarious sort of deal what happened there because. One of the fellow residents on Lincoln apparently got one of these orders to comply prior to that, and they just went around the neighborhood and pointing out other properties, saying, "Well, how about them? How about them? How about them?"
Oh, wow.
And so that right now, I believe there's 4 other properties aside from that unnamed tattletale that received these orders to comply. And so the bylaw itself, it was passed in 2010, and it's really it's very vague, and that's one of the issues that we have. It's a very vague bylaw, and it doesn't really spell out exactly what you can and cannot do. Because obviously, people, working on their properties, taking pride in ownership. Walkerville is a special place, and people actually take ownership of their neighborhood and investing their own time and money into the beautification of their properties. We've got letters of support from the Walkerville BIA, from the Old Walkerville Residents Association, that's saying, this is something that we don't want to stop. We want to actually encourage this because it's good for business. People come from LaSalle, they come from Amherstburg, specifically for that special atmosphere that is Old Walkerville. So they've received this order to comply. It was supposed to be removed by September 30th. We contacted Mario Sonego, the chief engineer, and said, well, the council question is coming back on October 6th. So can we have a stay of execution type of thing until we actually debate this within council chambers? So that's where we stand now. We're waiting for for October 6th, and hopefully we get to debate this within council.
Okay, yeah, you called the guy a tattletale. Halberstadt and they called him a snitch. Him or her a snitch.
Those are pretty harsh words. Now, this is all complaint-driven, right? These bylaw officers don't investigate unless there are complaints. City's worried about lawsuits, obviously. I don't know. Did someone trip over one of these?
Nobody tripped on one of the ones that we had. I did hear that there was another one on Chilver that there was an incident where somebody did trip, and that one has since been replaced. But yeah, it's a nefarious kind of deal. It's unfortunately. Most bylaws are complaint-driven, so there's just not enough manpower to go around and see everything. But then the case can be made that this does pit neighbor against neighbor. This does create sort of a very tense atmosphere within neighborhoods, certain neighborhoods. Right. So let's maybe the goal is to hire more bylaw enforcement officers and take that power away from the actual residents. Right now the onus is on them to actually do the policing. And, like I said, it doesn't create that nice of an atmosphere.
No, but I guess Mario Sonego, all told, I think there's about 200 sort of complaints, right-of-way complaints, not in Walkerville or on Lincoln Road necessarily, but all told, yeah, it is complaint-driven. But more bylaw officers, really?
Well, you know what? I wouldn't be against it. As I'm going door to door and talking to people, it seems like all the problems people do have, we have bylaws already in place for them. Riding your bicycles on sidewalks, off-leash dogs. We already have rules in place for all these things. They're just not being enforced, or they cannot be enforced. So building upon the, more and more bylaws making those kind of promises is kind of insincere because we already have rules in place to actually address a lot of those issues. So, maybe it will take getting more people out there, maybe enforce some of these rules. I love the idea of really cutting back and saving a lot of money, but when it comes at the expense of the safety and quality of life in our neighborhoods, maybe it's time to address that. Look at that line on the budget.
Okay, so Alan Halberstadt, the incumbent, he was out there with you at this press conference last night, and the chattering classes Dylan and myself included, sort of said, "Oh, is that an endorsement? Is he endorsing you? Is he secretly endorsing you? What's the deal with you in Halberstadt? Why was he there?"
Well, Alan was there because he did ask that council question on August 19th. He is the ward councillor for where we were. No, Alan is not publicly endorsing me, and we were
Is he
wondering.
privately endorsing you?
Why would I say that? Why would I admit to that? No, Alan is not actually endorsing me. Alan and I have worked together for, I've worked on Alan's campaigns, the last 3 or 4 campaigns. I've knocked on all these doors, but it was for Councillor Halberstadt. I fully support him. He's a fantastic ward councillor. He's one of these guys, you pick up the phone and he takes care of your issues. And I hope that I can actually fill his shoes. But no, Alan and I have worked on numerous projects together. We have worked hand in hand on numerous committees of council, addressing a lot of these quality of life issues. So it's only natural that Alan was there with me last night to address this. Like I said, he was working on this thing before I got involved. So I just got approached by one of the residents who said this is an issue and can you make some noise about it. So that's why Alan was there.
Okay. Excellent.
Your background, right? Regional urban planning. You used to have a blog, Scale Down, quite popular. Are you still going to be writing if you're a councillor on the campaign trail, or just talk about your big thing is neighborhoods and bicycling?
Absolutely. It's, I have been doing this for quite some time. In 2001, I chaired the Windsor Bicycling Committee to get the Bicycle Use Master Plan passed, which was passed unanimously. And that was before cycling was actually cool. That's back when, it was looked down upon highly. So it's always, walkable, complete communities have always been a very important thing for me. And like you mentioned, Don, I've been writing about this thing, pulling in best practices from other communities when, it seems like there's been a focus coming back on the neighborhood, on the traditional neighborhood. And it's fantastic because it does sort of take a lot of the pressures from a municipality away from providing heavy automotive infrastructure. The cost to run transit through a neighborhood like South Walkerville or Old Walkerville is pennies on the dollar and compared to out in the suburbs. And if we continue building out there, everything's more expensive once we do that. Roads and sewers, all the infrastructure is more and more expensive the more we sort of spread out. So to see this sort of this value being placed again on Walkerville, traditional neighborhoods like Old Walkerville and South Walkerville, it's not only great for our quality of life. Our waistlines will go down the more and more we walk and talk. We get to know our neighbors better. That reduces crime. We take ownership of our neighborhoods again, and it's only better for everybody.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I guess just with Ward 4, probably more than any other ward in the city, there's a lot of heavy hitters, a lot of people who have run numerous times for the city, a lot of stalwarts in the community. What would you say sets yourself apart from some of the other candidates?
Oh, well, good for Ward 4 candidates or Ward 4 voters. They have a great slate of people to choose from. Right. A lot of very smart, articulate people. It's
tragic, actually, that this many people, this good and qualified are running in one ward.
And I hear that all the time. Why can't you be running in my ward? And it feels good to me. But my heart's always been in Walkerville. I started my business in Walkerville. I've been very active within Walkerville with the Old Walkerville Residents Association that I started 4 or 5 years ago. That type of thing. So I've always been a big proponent of Walkerville. Right. But what sets me apart, and that's the $1 million question, right? Why vote for me as opposed to one of my competitors? And I really think it comes down to I have been doing this a very long time. I believe, I haven't taken a very big, in-depth look at my competitors, but I have been active on committees of council. Like I said, I chair the Windsor Bicycling Committee. I know how it works. I know for 15 years I've been involved in some sort of the other within City Hall on a volunteer basis. So I've made those connections with administration. I know the people to talk to within City Hall to get things done, and I really think that really sets me aside. I'm not just focusing on my business. I'm focusing on the community. Yes, I did open up the City Cycler in Old Walkerville, and it's been great. It's had a real rejuvenating effect on sort of that little corner of the neighborhood. Right. But
are you still involved with it? Do you own it? What's the deal with that? Or because you work at Ford now, so what do you do now, and what's your involvement with the cyclery now?
I've been at Ford for 20 years, and so I won the Auto Lotto a long time ago, and children, my daughter's in the University of Windsor, and you know, university tuitions, everything. My Ford employment is not going away anytime soon. But yes, I did start the bike shop. Started up in my garage. It progressed. You know, we've seen a lot of success with it. And up until about 3 weeks ago, I was the co-owner of it. But you know, I was working 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you know, there's just not enough hours. And this is where my heart is. I've always wanted to do this, and this is what I keep on coming back to. Working in the municipality, making my city better. So it was, okay, I've got to let the cyclery go, and you know, it's still going great. One of the employees bought out my half, so it's still going to continue on in the same vein that it's always been working, and it's an amazing experience. Highly suggest you guys open up a bike shop. It's great.
I wish, yeah, that'd be incredible. Perfect.
Okay, Chris Holt, thank you for joining us. He's running in Ward 4. We're at the Windsor Star News Cafe.
Thanks.